Hello and a very good afternoon to all of you watching out there. And I know it's been a while since we've been doing this, and it's been a short break that we haven't seen you. So I'm really excited to be back. And as usual, I have a very special guest with me today. And for those of you who have been new to this platform, let me tell you a little bit about myself and what we are doing this month. I am Dr. Diksha Batra, the pain free dentist, and we are on a mission to make your 2021 a memorable year. We've all been through so much in 2020, and it's time to leave all that behind and adapt a new approach. I think 2020 left us disempowered in some sense. So, all this month, we are bringing to you some empowering choices that are going to allow you to carve out the year, probably one of your best years yet in 2021. So, join us on the Learn Paintree Dentistry group or on my page where you can see these regular updates. And today, we have something very special lined up for you because we believe that in order to set the right year for yourself, one of the most important pillars would be financial success. And since so many of us have probably sustained various financial losses or setbacks, let's start from this very basic to make the right choices, the right plans, and create a new wish list for ourselves for the next year. And who better than Dr. Bhavdeep Ahuja, who will guide us through every step of the way. So today we have an exciting session planned with him where we are going to quiz him about everything that we could ever think of that maybe we had doubts about in the realm of finance. And I do hope you keep your questions coming. Let me, without any further ado, introduce this man of many talents. I have really been looking forward to interacting with him as I have seen him do so many things and so successfully. So, Dr. Bhaldeep Ahuja graduated in 1998 from the Punjab University in Patiala. He has specialized in implants and he has a triple MBA, right from hospital management to finance and human resources, as well as marketing, from some of the very premier institutes of the country. Not only this, he also holds postgraduate diplomas in medical law and ethics, in clinical research, in cyber law, IPRs, disaster management, financial management, bioinformatics, and the list goes on. So, all of you young guys watching out there, trust me, there's so much to learn out there. This is an inspiration in itself. He has done over 125 original scientific publications and he has authored more than 5 books on different topics ranging from practice to finance, practice management to finance. And I think just writing one book has tired me so much that I don't know how he did 5 books in. And this is his 21st year of clinical practice in Ludhiana. So, to meet this man of many talents, let me get him on screen with us today. Welcome, Dr. Ahuja.
Thank you, Dr. Diksha. It's a pleasure to be on this platform with you. And thank you once again for this warm introduction.
Thank you. And I think I had to do justice to it because you've done so much with your life that it's an inspiration in itself.
Thank you.
Great. So I always start with this question for all our speakers on this platform that how has 2020 been for you and how has COVID treated you?
2020, I wouldn't say that it was bad for me. It was more than a reasonably good year for me. There were so many pending tasks of my life which actually were I was able to do only because of the lockdown. Because otherwise, the life was say hunky dory. My father passed away unfortunately last year, so many things were in a mess. Obviously, you need to wind up certain things. You need to say tied up your own life, and then the practice goes haywire in those days. But all those things actually were I was able to complete courtesy lockdown only. So 2020 saw me taking out more than 100 publications. All my books went live on Amazon.com also in this year. So why should I be calling it bad? Yes, COVID has been kind on us still now, till now, touchwood, no one, any of my family members didn't contract COVID as till now. So
Right.
it has been a reasonably good year for me.
Great. And I do hope that that streak of good health and good luck continues for you. I think to a lot of our viewers out there, we have been promising to tell them about what has COVID taught us in terms of financial planning, both our times pre-COVID as well as our times post-COVID. Especially with regards to financial planning, what are the lessons that we have learned?
People actually were running or say having a fairy tale life. Many of us, we believed that the world could never stop. It could never come to a screeching halt as it did. And we actually were living on a borrowed time, borrowed money sometimes in that sense. And we never believed that something could happen of such kind to us. I won't mince any words in saying, but COVID stripped many of us naked. We were obviously, I'm speaking from the financial point of view only. Say the first lockdown, 3 weeks, around 14, 15, the April till it was there. And trust me, so many of my friends in my town, they were actually say panicking. मैं क्या करूंगा? What will I do? It was not even a month. Imagine 22nd March was Janta Curfew, and 24th onwards the lockdown was inserted. So just practically 20 days or 21 days. And they were actually like, मैं कब clinic जाऊँ? I said, even if you go to clinic, you're not going to have patients. Such is the panic all around. You're not going to have any patients. So don't you have an emergency fund for with you? What is that emergency fund? People didn't have a notion of that only. That and then many of the people actually say took my advice and had been investing in my say with the help of the say education I've been giving them in my WhatsApp groups. They invested in mutual funds. The markets crashed badly in March and April, and so I got so many calls and messages. Sir, we invested on your say, but we are actually left wanting for our expenses only. We don't have, we are not seeing any kind of returns. All my say returns are in negative. What to do? So the only thing I have been praying, preaching, and say teaching in that sense is that you should have some emergency funds with you. Don't take life for granted. Yes, COVID gave us many other lessons, but the primary important lesson was save for your rainy day. And those were the rainy days which we had, and they continued for many months together. The golden rule says you need to actually say have at least 6 months of expenses with you or at least 3 months of gross income, whatever.
True.
It's all, almost comes out to same thing only. But if you don't have it, then no one else is to blame but you yourself. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're so right because I we have been talking to people across, and this has been a continuing problem. And I think it's strange how we all lived in denial because just like COVID, it could be some sort of accident or some sort of disaster that could hit us individually. The only good thing about COVID was that it happened to everyone, so it unified us in that sense. But like you rightly said, it also brought to the forefront the fact that how could we all be living in this fallacy that we would someday not be able to go to the clinic, right? So I think if a contingency fund is all we take back from COVID and start investing and working towards saving that, that would be a great takeaway for all of us. It's easier
yes.
said than done, of course, because saving is something that we'll come to, which is always hard for us as dentists or even as people to do, right? And I was also observing the fact that because of COVID, so many of our expenses in the clinic have grown so much that saving seems like a far dream. So how do we kind of set our treatment prices? And this is again one of those common questions I have covered in my lives even previously and got opinions from other experts as well and given my own. But what is your take to say that, is there a formula that we can apply? Is there some sort of quick hack which tells us that this is the ratio between expenses and treatment for our clinics, treatment prices for our clinics?
The only thing I believe is that we are all say affected by the great Italian professor Wilfred Pareto's principle, the Pareto principle of 80-20, which we call as. It affects us in all spheres of life. And For practice also, I always believe my marketing book says three aspects. Number one, KYS, know yourself. The second thing is KNP, know your patients. The third
Right.
thing, KYSCA, know your source of income coming in from your clinic. You might be a periodontist, but your primary source of income may be from Crown and Bridge. So you need to analyze what actually is your source of income, or what
Right.
exactly, or say what actually is putting in, or say flowing in the 80% of revenue in your clinic, and accordingly raise those services by 25 to 30%. That is what my formula is. Those services which actually sell, we actually do the reverse. We either increase 10 to 15%. You will not be actually say getting a return out of it in that sense. If
I
you increase it proportionately in those services which are giving you revenue, you will be able to balance out the same fund which you were carrying home, or maybe carry back home later, and also compensate for the, say, increased expenses courtesy COVID, which we all have to do for
true.
our safety, for patient safety, and also for public display of, say, sterilization, PDA, not PDS, PDS in that sense. So public display of sterilization is also equally important in that
Right.
sense. So we need to do that also. Again, those PDS is a different aspect, but for primarily for our own health and for our patients' health, we have to do all those things. We can't escape from away from that. So what does that mean? You are actually going to have more expenses come what may. So you
Absolutely.
have to compensate it by increasing your charges. If let's suppose you are doing any specialty, but you are just doing, say, one or two dentures in 6 months, maybe you are not having complete denture patients. So even if you increase those by double, it is not going to make any major difference in your practice. So those services which you are doing maximally. So remember, that third step I told you for marketing. Know your patient source of income, or know your source of revenue which is flowing in. And I have a whole series of the same how to raise your treatment charges published in Dental Tribune as well in June, July.
Right.
I wrote it this year only. So this is in a series of 5 articles. You can search Dental Tribune South Asia. Dr. Ajib Chitguppi is the editor for that. So
Right.
the articles are there too if you want to go in for deep understanding of that thought process which I just told you.
Great. And I think you very rightly mentioned, because I feel for even the patients watching us out there, they have to understand that we are all struggling to survive. I think it's a myth that, we dentists make a lot of money, especially in COVID. I think all our patients will vouch for it that the kind of things we've had to upgrade to for our safety and theirs, and the daily disposable costs that we are sustaining have gone up so much that whatever profit margins we even had despite our increased overheads are very slim, almost not justifying why we are practicing at this point, right? But of course there will be better times, and our patients are supportive. For many of us, we've seen that our patients are supportive and understanding of it. Like, I'm seeing a pattern in my clinic that my patients don't question me about charges, because we are giving them that much more value, and they feel safe and secure. So rightly said, because many times I've not got the exact answer, but you put, like, sort of hit the nail on the mark, saying that instead of increasing your charges across the board, let's increase them in areas where patients are regular, frequent. We're doing most of it, and that also allows a bit of a cost relief to procedures where we're doing only one off of those procedures. So it's a win-win situation for the patient as well as the doctor who is trying to be there in hard times like this. So I think
Yes,
that
it actually does also. In the patient's mind, you don't create a perception that you have increased and you have become exorbitant. You will be
exactly
actually, say, doing all those things which you are doing in plenty already. Then
right.
I've given different scenarios that, of course, we are not going to have the same income. uh, if there is 25% fall, 33% fall, 50% fall in your income, what will be
Right.
your carry home revenue in spite of that if you increase your charges in the way I have given in that formula?
Great. And I think this is definitely something that I will post links for after our chat, so that people can find it and read it. And the whole idea of this entire engagement is to, sort of empower all of us to make a better 2021. And I think just like how we have faced financial setbacks or increased costs in our practices. Even our patients, I have seen, are facing, money crunches. Some of them are laid off. So I think coming up with a win-win solution is the best way forward, I'm sure. And you know what? Like, I still have that fear, and that's why I wrote the book about pandemic proofing our practice, because I still believe that the worst is not over. Maybe at the cost of sounding pessimistic, I do foretell that in the next maybe couple of years, we are going to experience a scenario, maybe not the same, but similar to a pandemic of this sort. And at that point, what are the financial steps that we should outline?
The only thing is that we need to make sure that our say passive source of income or an alternate source of income starts flowing in. Obviously you can't gain those things overnight, but
Yes.
yes, you have to be ready for any kind of catastrophe in your life. It can be as you rightly said, it can be a medical catastrophe as such, any bad luck, or a endemic or a pandemic or a epidemic of this sort in any regard. If at all it is there, we need to make sure that we have a alternate source of income. And people ask me, हम लोग dentist हम क्या करेंगे? We don't know anything else. Yes, I'm not saying you to pursue another profession. In today's times, the best income you can have is compounding.
Yes.
Compounding is going to be your passive income, the money flowing in. Yes, if you start doing those things regularly, if you start investing money regularly, certain amount of income will start flowing in. And when that money starts flowing in on a regular basis, that earned money also starts earning interest on itself. So an interest on an interest income is simply known as a compounded income. So
Correct.
yes, for you need a good amount of corpus for that. Can't be built overnight, but yes, all habits need a certain say stepping stone unless you want to go about it. So I always believe that it is not always that if the mutual funds are giving you return, you're throwing all money in mutual funds. It is again a market linked instrument which can be say risky some of the times, as we saw in March April. So considering that scenario which I earlier also mentioned, people actually called me up in March April that we invested on your here, said that you do in that. 8 months, 9 months down the line, just today itself, the BSE crossed to 46,000, highest ever. The Nifty crossed 13,500. Now nobody has called me to tell that we have booked profits. So people told me when they booked losses. So nobody called me up. So if any of you who called me up in April or May that you booked losses, call me up today. And I am telling you to book the profits now. If you have done, obviously not for the long-term investor. So what I mean to say is that you start saving on regularly, and the
Right.
only way to do that is by budgeting aptly. The standardized formula followed all over the world is 50-30-20.
Right.
50% goes to your say needs, 30% goes to your wants, 20% goes to your say retirement investment planning. I also call that as alternate rip,
Right.
alternate retirement investment planning before you actually rip or before you actually rest in peace. So
Right.
do the alternate rip before you actually rip in peace, rest in peace. So that is the aim for that. Now the thing is that we need to understand. Yes, thanks to COVID, I will say thanks to COVID, of course, the 30% section has limited a great deal. We are not dining out much. The multiplexes are not having any movies. We are almost postponing our say vacation plans, or if
True.
at all we are going to a nearby location, which is not
True.
costing us that much as it used to cost us pre-COVID. So for that 50-30-20 formula, I have devised my own formula. I call it as the magical Bhavdi formula. So that goes by the ratio of 45, 15, and 40. So what I do is I take away 5 from the needs, take 15 from the wants, or and add those 15 and 520 into the say investment planning part, so that my gross income I'm able to save 40%. Obviously if we are going to do that much amount, then only we can say that we are say landing up in a phase where we can start building a secure future for ourselves. And I'm not saying you to throw all your money in mutual funds. Always it should be a mixed approach. Never put all your eggs in one basket is the common market scenario. You should put in something in your government securities like PPF. You should put in some in market. You should have some amount of gold as well. People asked me in July, sir, the gold rates are touching almost 60. What should I do? I said, do you have any loans? I said, yes. Well, शादी वाला gold छोड़ के बाकी का बेच के get off your loans. You
True.
kept gold as your say investment only. So if it
Right.
is touching 60 today, what do you want? You want it to touch 1 lakh, then only you will sell. So a few people agreed to me and they thanked me that I gave them this advice. Obviously, gold came back to 48, 49 these days. So, but yes, those again, those who booked profits or those who got rid of their loans, they were the happy ones. So the
Right.
only thing is, don't get bogged down too much in your clinic shell that you don't look outside like a turtle. You need
Absolutely.
to look outside. If you are in the forest, you will miss the trees. So you need to look beyond that as well.
True. And a couple of questions here, Doc. One is that your 50-30-20 formula, which you earlier were talking about, is this at all age dependent? Would you say that it varies from, a young dentist or even a young person to somebody in their 40s, 50s, married with kids? Would you vary this, or is it something that we should apply anyway now?
Yes, this absolutely varies according to age because
Right.
it varies according to age and enthusiasm both.
Right.
If you are in your 20s or say before your 30, 25 to 30, if I'm considering, or maybe 21 to 30, so
Correct.
you are actually young. You may not be having a great flow of income, but you have less of responsibilities. You have, say, someone to take care of you, especially your parents, most more or less. Then
Yes.
you can actually go in for a higher risk taking ability. You can invest more in equity. The standard rule which is followed is 100 minus your age. So
Yes.
if you're 30 or 29, you can say easily pour in 70 or 71% of your money into equity. But
Absolutely.
this is the formula which is followed all over the world. But for Indian conditions, we always say to be on the safer side so that the risk taking ability is balanced a bit. You take
Right.
it 80 minus your age. So if you're 30, you can put in 50 in
Got it.
equities and the rest 50 in your say balanced or aggressive, say or those fixed income funds or say fixed
With
income,
lower.
not yeah, where
Right.
you can at least have a secure growth, but the less risk of the money, say, getting say drowned away in that sense. Your risk appetite actually decreases with age because
Absolutely.
your responsibilities
Responsible.
increase.
Yes.
You have a family to take care of, you have employees to take care of, you have a clinic to take care of, you have to care of its upgradation and updation aspect as well. You have to update yourself as well. So you
Correct.
can't actually say put in more risk taking, or you can't have more risk taking abilities at that point of time. And as you grow on, then people put on some amount of loan liabilities on them as you
Yes.
grow into your 50s. And
Naturally.
then those who have kids at the right time, or doctors usually don't have it, but those who have kids at the right time, they actually start dipping into their retirement income, just about they're about to touch 50. And that
Right.
is where we have this syndrome in North India. We are where people are actually fond of throwing a bomb on their kids' weddings. Just in the one frequent excuse, "Ek hi to beta mera, ek hi to beti meri." That is the simple excuse they give. And
Right.
actually, I'm not sure, but yes, definitely Delhi and North India are fond of these things. They start
True.
dipping into their retirement income, forgetting that only a few expenses will decrease after 60. The
Correct.
biggest expense after 60 is the medical expense, if people hardly fail to take care of that part. So
True.
we need to realize that your risk taking ability and your money to throw in equity will decrease with the say time. So you need to put in your age and your risk appetite accordingly before you invest into a adventurous instrument. I won't call them dangerous, but adventurous instruments.
Got it. And another important factor here, like you rightly mentioned, that as we grow, as we're young, we have more risk-taking abilities, but at the same time, somewhere our knowledge is limited. For many of us who are still not seasoned in the financial world or we've not read up enough, would you suggest that such a person go with guided investment instead of try to delve in, finances themselves? And a second part to the same question is that while your risk taking capability is lesser, your knowledge is also, I mean, is more, but your knowledge is less. Similarly, when you're growing older, your risk taking becomes lesser, but you probably grow in knowledge. So, what's the end solution for this? Like, would you, as a general rule, ask dentists to go with financial planners, or try a few investments on their own?
The only thing is, you actually are right in saying, but this applies to only to a portion of the population. Those who
Right.
are actually busy in their clinic cocoon, I always call that, they actually rarely try to look beyond that. And when you don't try to look beyond those, you won't get a knowledge in that regard. But yes, the point you mentioned, absolutely valid, very valid and rightly taken. But then you understand that if you are getting wiser with age, getting knowledgeable with age, that only decreases your aim of action, what you have to aim at. Your trial and error reduces a
Yeah.
great deal. You
Right.
actually will pick up the things, if you're following the things regularly, you'll pick up
Right.
only things which are going to give you returns. So if you had 4 out of 10 going right your way, with increasing age, that margin will decrease. You'll now start having 8 or 9 out of 10. But yes, for a starter who is not willing to put in great amount, you can start on your own, learn on your own. But if you are somewhere in the middle of the road, always take the help of a specialist who'll
Got
guide you, will guide you. And yes, with the continued, say, I'll say continued dental education in that regard, or a CD kind of a thing, you can develop a knowledge. And obviously things can, there will be a point of time when you will no longer need that. But a professional advice is always a welcome, big welcome. There are always specialists for specialist job, so you need to take their help if you are not willing to risk your money. But at the end of the day, you should remember that don't leave everything on that advisor. Either
Agree.
work in unison or work on your own. That is my advice. If you leave
Got
everything on him, मैं सिंपल एक भाषा में एक लाइन में कहता हूँ, अगर आपको आपके पैसे का दर्द नहीं है तो किसी थर्ड पर्सन को उसका दर्द नहीं होगा. That is
very,
the only
very,
thing I can say.
very true. And I think for the people who are sitting on the fence and still in their clinic cocoon, as they call it, and even I've experienced that we get so involved in our clinical practice that money, which is the main thing that's fueling our practice, is something that we don't bother growing. We want to go after the next best treatment or the next full mouth rehab, but we probably don't know what happened with all that money that we earn. So it's important that, especially starting young in the world of investment and learning, it becomes really important that we acquire this knowledge or get the help that we need so that we are setting up a great financial foundation for ourselves, because it's a life skill that I think we need throughout, whether you're a dentist or any other professional who is generating a certain amount of income. And this brings me to the question that, I heard about a lot of people who were either scaling up or new practices which were opening, someone who had just, stepped out of college. They wanted to know that should they be even opening? Like they were stopped in their tracks because of COVID. And, what is your advice to these people?
See, those who were sitting on the fence will say they were almost ready to open in March or April, maybe in the coming summer, which passed
Correct.
away in 2020. So
Correct.
I call that actually say blessing in disguise for them. They actually had all those say requirements which are needed to be met, the ventilation aspect, the rearrangement aspect in the clinic. They need to
Right.
actually have a look at that again, because once you shift with full say full decor and decorum, you can't be doing those digging things again. There are
Right.
certain aspects which need to be taken care, be it the biomedical waste part, or be it the ventilation part, or be it the say spacing or arranging between the chairs part, considering the COVID scenario also, and considering the say clinical establishment act scenario as well, if in terms of square yard say area you have to keep, or the distancing between the chairs aspect, the waiting area aspect, you all need to take care of those or have a revisited those aspects again, so that
Right.
when you open up you are actually say ready to open up with full monty, and you don't have to do go back to that construction aspect once again.
Absolutely. I think in fact, I dedicated a whole chapter in my book for this. Chapter 5 is all about, like, designing your premises or redesigning your premises, because all of us have to get COVID compatible in that sense. Because be it COVID or be it all the 100 transmissible infections that we're dealing with every day, I think all of these clinics were probably blessed in that sense to be able to restart with the right parameters. But the question really becomes that, what should their financial plan be? Should they be going all in? Should they do it in a phased manner? How should they limit, or how should they plan their expenses at this stage from a day-to-day perspective?
The only thing is, some of the new clinics actually say indulge in bargain deals, or say getting a good buys, or getting say hefty consumables for their clinic. I'm not
Right.
against their armamentarium, which is an asset, which is
Yes.
not going to say expire in any way. But those
Right.
consumables, they should actually limit their spends in that, because the basic disinfection or say sterilization thing, that will be the paramount thing. But what will be the consumables, they actually need to sit in and analyze if they have not done that prior. I always there is a whole say uh, new full chapter I've written on that, but never ever open your new dental clinic in a rush. So there are a lot of aspects you need to take care before you open up, and
Right.
you really need to ascertain what your target population. As I said, know your patient. The second aspect was that after knowing yourself, so you
Right.
need to know that what area or what population houses in your area. Are they the salaried ones? Are they the business class? What is their return? And I've been to places like Jammu. One of my friends were practicing over there. I had a lecture about 4 5 years back. I
Right.
went there after my lecture to meet him. I said, "Doctor साहब ऊपर गए हैं खाना खाने." He had a residence upstairs only at the first floor. I said, okay. So when he came down, so I asked him, कितने बजे तक काम करेगा? यार 3 या 4 बजे तक ओपीडी करता हूँ. I said 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. He said a.m. in the morning. So there are places like Kalyan also in Mumbai where the OPD says is there till 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night. Even at a few places I've been there in Navi Mumbai. So
True.
the primary population is all the office going population from 9 to 6 or 9 to 5. So you need
Correct.
to ascertain that what your population you're going to get, what are their chief complaints, what are their problems, what are your returns going to be, irrespective of what your specialty is. You need to judge the patient. You
Right.
can't. I've seen many specialists doing general dentistry throughout their life. They
True.
can't help. They had that kind of category of patients.
Absolutely.
The target group identification is the primary important thing. After you know yourself, what you all can accomplish in your practice.
True. And what I would like to understand, even for me as a practitioner for over 12 years now, what is this healthy expense to earning ratio? Because we talk about, running a successful practice. Like you rightly said, as a specialist, success can be in the form of, the kind of procedures you do or the kind of patients you treat, or maybe just having a financially healthy practice. Now, would you have a formula or a ratio to explain to maybe someone who's even started well before the pandemic or just after the pandemic, that what is this healthy ratio that we can adapt so that we are not financially sick in our practices?
Again, this ratio varies from the size of the clinic. For
Okay.
a smaller clinic, the expenses can be in the ratio of 35. For a medium level, from 40 to 50. For
Right.
a settled one with say higher workload and maybe higher expenses as well, in the range of 50 to 60. But I call the perfect ratio between 40 and 50. If you are able to limit your gross expenses between 40 to 50 maximally. Gross income means the total collection of your practice, and 40 to
Right.
50 expenses mean, let's suppose you are having 2 lakh of gross income. So
Right.
anything above from 80,000 to 1 lakh as expenses would be greatly acceptable. Anything
Great.
less than that, of course, welcome. But that doesn't mean compromising on any of the, say, protocols you are supposed to follow, especially post COVID. The only
Got
thing is that you have to limit your FOMO approach. We all get impressed by the fear of missing out approach on the Facebook. We all see a lot of cases shared on the social media, and
right.
predominantly most of them are white lines. I mean the endo cases. So your forte might be prosthodontist, let's suppose, or
Yeah.
periodontics. And
Right.
your clinic income might be also from both specialties, from Crown and Bridge, and from those. Maybe you are having a specialist or a consultant for a root canal, or maybe you are not having much of root canal cases either. It again depends upon practice to practice. That is where
Right.
you don't get obsessed. What will say warm vertical obturation method, or say what, or heavy investment in that regimen will do in your clinic? You have to limit that. Understand this. Why I told you to know your patients is, you know where your income is flowing from. That those second and third aspects of marketing I said. If you know your income is flowing from these two areas or three areas, you have to invest in those areas in your clinic, totally ignoring the other two. And that is where you have to resist the FOMO approach. Then
Right.
You have to stop indulging in impulsive buying of getting a good deal. If you are interested in get a couple of like-minded colleagues, two or three people, you can together buy any such kind of materials, if especially if that is a hefty one. So always think before buying say a newer materials. I always say open up your drawers or refrigerator doors. You'll find so many small level 10 to 20,000 things, so many of them unused in the past 6 months, 7 months sometimes. Again, COVID times discounted. But these are one of the biggest thieves of your practice. You actually don't know because we bought it in the hope एक patient भी आ गया तो पैसे पूरे. We
Right.
are not supposed to buy in those sense. We need to train our mindset in that we don't say fall a prey to those mental say greediness of this that वो भी कर रहा है root canal मेरे को भी root canal ऐसा कर रहा है. So you need to ascertain that you need to put in a line of say drawing a line of where you want to stop and where you don't want.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of these things are ego driven, where we want to match up in the community. Sometimes we tend to forget about what our patient really wants. And a rule that I personally use is the reason I call myself the pain free dentist is one of the rules I always use to buy anything is to see if it's going to take my patient's pain away. If the answer is yes, then most likely that's the kind of thing that you will find in my practice, be it an equipment or a material. And secondary to that, of course, is growth and learning, where I can become more efficient or I can create a better outcome for the patient which lasts longer. Then that's how I would end up buying it from an economic standpoint. So yes, impulse buying happens, but only when the answer to these two questions is yes. Only then. Otherwise, in personal life, of course, impulse buying is probably a weakness of my community or my sex. So I think that's something that we end up doing a lot, which I think now we're getting wiser, after this talk. So I would also want to just get your general opinion. Like I've always held the belief that I come from a finance family myself, but I've always realized that as a dentist, I don't have the skills to be a great financial planner. And I think that's a general majority of our community, barring some exceptions. So, the reason why we have all these people watching today also is for the fact that all of us yearn to learn more about financial planning and management. What could be those key steps that we can take?
For women especially, if you want to ask.
Yes, of course. You could tell us for both sexes. That's fine.
It's okay. I can tell for both. The only thing is that impulsive buying is inherent in nature. You need to really putting a curb or putting a stop is sometimes not in your hands most of the times. And when you enter a shop or you want to indulge in something, you can obviously go about that part. But you need to actually realize that there are certain aspects. Why I'm saying you to curb over your say clinic impulsive buying or what do you achieve by putting a curb on your wants. Obviously we are not no one to choose. COVID helped us actually a great deal in curbing our wants because again there is one aspect I always say. uh, there is a proverb along with FOMO which is very commonly used, YOLO. You only live once, you only have one life, so live one life, king size or queen size, whatever you wish to. But
Right.
then you need to realize that it is a very sorry feeling to ask money from kids in your old age, irrespective of the fact that you have spent a bomb on their marriage or spent a great deal on their education. It is still a very say being financially independent is the biggest gift that you can gift yourself for your old age. But then what where will the money come from if you only have one source of income and you are not able to limit your expenses or limit yourselves in this aspect? So
Yes.
I always say FOMO walo, YOLO walo, Yago bhi aayega. You also grow old and sank. Seldom old age is seldom kind. So
Yes.
you need to realize that it is never kind, or you can say seldom kind. So whatever money you can save from here can be put up. Obviously, I'm not telling you to curb your needs in any way. I just
Right.
told to curb your wants and curb your unnecessary buying, which actually act as the thieves in your practice. So these are the things which I would request to curb, because this is the money you can use to add in your alternate rip, which will create a better future for you. And that will create a sleeping or say alternate source of income for you as well. Because unless that is there, you are not say going to be very sleeping in a very say healthy way or a sound way in the night. And when it comes to women, I always tell them, be it married or be it unmarried, they usually act like a sandwich most of the time, because they have to sometimes, if they are married, they're caught between the financial needs of their parents and children as well, and they have a lot of time beating these scenarios. And the problem is that they are also actually considered as a taboo in the family, in financial aspect, if I may say so. यार पैसे की बात करने चलो, जाओ तुम लोग, तुम जाके चाय बनाओ. This is the kind of attitude sometimes we have
Sure,
faced,
sure. Yes,
and this is actually a wrong attitude to have. I always believe that it is a bad thing to do multitasking. I'm just going to come to the example, but females are born multitaskers. They can
yes,
handle those things with aplomb. Number one. Number two, they are not taught about budgeting their house. How they manage their kitchen, how through that, not talking about the dentist asset, but a general female, how they manage in a limited budget themselves, say cutting different ends to not skip any meals for the family.
correct.
They are on CAs as well in that sense. And we do the reverse. We actually keep them away. So it is time to shrug off that taboo and meet those financial challenges head on. And the basic thing is required is the number one thing is the change in the attitude by both, because the males don't show interest in educating them, but the females also don't show their interest in getting that education. So both of them have to change their attitude, and then both of them have to take greater interest in financial dealings. And the sooner they can overcome this hurdle of say financial illiteracy, they can better manage their needs and wants, either of parent side or from the say children side. Because the basic thing is, I always, as I said, they are born mathematicians as they handle the home budget. So
Yes,
they what they can do is they can achieve financial independence for the whole family via their, say, if they are earning, then that adds to the steady income that is flowing in the household. Via the controlled spending, we all can say manage our future in a better way. And obviously it helps in accumulation of assets as well, if we take the household aspect or say building of a house in that regards.
true, true. I think you've really put it well, and I'm a born feminist because I walk that tightrope every day of trying to balance the house and still be really good at what I do. And I think there are so many women out there who are probably just living with the myth that they are not good at financial management, but actually it's coming as second nature to them. So, it's just about discarding that myth and getting proactive about getting the right knowledge. We may be doing things instinctively, but it's time to get trained and really coin that specific expertise for ourselves that women are good with money. In fact, as a community, we should try and empower each other with that. And as you mentioned about YOLO, I think YOLO within a certain budget, I think should be a good balance between YOLO and YAGO, right? So if we really want to live well, but at the same time we can budget that living well. So give ourselves a little bit of a frivolous income to reward ourselves every once in a while. So if I think that would be a good middle ground to reach. And like if we had to set financial goals for 2021, what would your advice be? What are the key parameters that will help us set these financial goals, especially for the young dentist out there who is starting out and has the advantage of starting young, because I think the beauty of compounding also comes the younger you start. So what are these financial goals that we can have?
The basic thing, you again start from the budgeting aspect. Start budgeting aptly in your say life.
Right.
Say start the clinical aspects I mentioned. Don't indulge in those, and start creating say regular income, say sum which you can save every month from your practice, and set goals for yourself. I always give goals. For example, someone in 27, 28, what will be the goals you'll be having? Own clinic, a marriage on the cards.
Yes.
Obviously, both of them can be interchangeable sometimes, but almost both of them happen at around about the same time, unless situation is otherwise. But then these are the two goals you need to pay for or care for or save for. So then the next goal is obviously bringing the first child in the family. Obviously, 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, whatever time you set for your part. And
Yes.
then the next goal is the kid going to the school, the big school, not the playway school, the big
Right.
school going. Obviously, that is again both of these bringing a child into the family and going the big kid, especially in metros, going to a big school is a big exercise which involves a lot of money. And then, according to choice, bringing the second child in the family. So these are
True.
the various goals that maybe an interval of 3 to 4, 3 to 5 years, which you can send. So set goals for that. Obviously, you'll be requiring some money at that point of time. So set yourself some scenarios where some income would be flowing approximately at those times. So
Got it.
obviously, you can't plan for everything in life, but you at least can plan for some things in your life. And then avoid the temptation to go for a loan for every small thing. It
True.
might not be a good temptation to go for loan because loans might be looking very lucrative that they solve our injured problems, but
Yes.
remember they cut into your savings. The amount which you were supposed to invest, which is going to pay you back, that you are paying back to the bank. One of
Ab-
my friends, he's a dentist. He left dentistry after say graduation, so he has a franchisee of say two schools. He has a petrol pump. He's a building contractor. So he does everything other than dentistry. So he said, I have so much loans on my head, and my dad says me one thing: "Tu kamara or bank kha raha hai." So that is one line if you have to summarize the things. And being the
True.
son of a banker myself, I am always against the loans, come what may. Yes, a very situation, very possible situation where you can't actually manage without it, then go for it. Otherwise, it is always better to take it from your parents, pay them back at 0% interest. Obviously, you
Right.
won't be paying them an interest, but that is the scenario. That is for what for your relatives or your families is for. Avoid going to the bank for every small requirement. That is
Got it.
one thing. And saving should not be a burden. It should be a habit for you. And Robin Sharma says if you have to develop a new habit, you have to do it for 21 days. I say you have to do it for 63 days minimum. So do it for 63 days and it becomes a habit. So remember, these are small little things which, when used in unison, will actually lead you to a better future and a secure financial life.
Got it. And in if we have to take a loan in proportion to our income, what do you think is a safe percentage that we can actually comfortably say that I can take this much of a loan? Because sometimes we over leverage and we end up really being slave to those loans, almost earning and spending the same.
The upper limit is again as I gave you my formula 45, 15, 40. So
Right.
that 40% either goes to your savings or go to your loans payback. You can't
Got
be cutting from your needs and wants, of course. Of course, you
it.
can cut down your wants to put in something amount in your alternate RIP, but don't cut from your RIP. So a minimum, say, good ratio is 15 to 25, but the maximum should never cross 40% of your gross income.
Sounds
Gross
good.
income is the total collection of the month or total
Got
from the year. If you we talk of the figures in annual only. Let's suppose at 40,000 your annual income is 4,80,000. So
Right.
or let's round it off to let's say 5 lakhs. So that loan what you're paying back maximally should not be more than 2 lakhs in a year. So roughly divided by that, you can get to 15 to 16,000 per month
Got
maximum.
got it. And
So that is the way.
Dr. Oja, you have written so many articles on tax planning as well as wealth creation. So, if you could give us a little bit of a lowdown on, what exactly is tax planning for the dentist? What are the common pitfalls, and how do you differentiate it from, an approach to wealth creation?
See, I always call a step ladder approach. Wealth creation, if we talk in that sense, is at the 10th step of the
Ladder.
that step ladder. Yeah.
Yes.
So if that is at the 10th step, wealth creation, the tax saving sits somewhat at the third or the fourth step.
Got it.
People want to reach wealth creation, they have to cross the stage of tax saving.
Right.
Now, I'll give you a few numbers if you are ready to digest them.
Absolutely.
We have a population of 135 to 140 crores,
Right.
close to 7.8, or let's round it off, close to 8 crore we receive the ITRs, the income tax returns. Out of that, four and a half are salaried ones who have no option but to pay tax because their TDS is deducted. And
Correct.
then there are 2 crore returns which are zero tax returns. They're filed but they pay nil tax. So that means that number is 4.5 plus 2, 6.5 out of 8 crores. So just 1.5 crore people paying tax.
Exactly.
1.5 is not even 1% in that sense, or close to 1% only.
Right.
Those who are carrying the load. Obviously, if I add the salad people along with that, now the basic section of tax saving is ATC, which gives you 1.5 lakh if you invest in PPF, mutual funds, Sukanya Samriddhi, senior citizen saving deposit, and number of options in
Right.
ATC. You can put in 1.5 lakh
Right.
in that. Overall, if you speak, there are different avenues. You can save up to 2.5 lakhs, close to 2.5 lakhs, if you want to save tax fully for a self-employed. For a salaried guy, this number is close to 3 lakhs. Those who have attended my sessions, they know these numbers, how I give a breakout of that. So
True.
now the real shocker comes in this format. Close to 70% of people who file their ITRs do not invest fully under Section 80C. So those who are filing their returns, 70% of them are not even using 1.8 or 1.5 lakhs under 80C. What
Right.
does that mean? What does that mean? That means you are not reaching even the third or the fourth step. How will you reach the 10th step of
Next
wealth
step.
creation? So
Exactly.
then you need to realize this aspect, that you can save only in white. You can grow only in white. There are nil avenues. I give a lot of credit for that to late finance minister, late Mr. Arun Jaitley, uh, who passed away in August 2019. He actually was instrumental in closing down most of the avenues of black money for us.
Right.
So now you have the only option to grow in white is by investing in those through your own earned income. That is
True.
where the problem comes. You actually don't show your full income. You
As
show your
though.
full expenses, you
Yes.
don't show your full income. Unless you show your full income, you are gonna say have a very less of profit. And that profit, if you're say, let's suppose you've shown an income of 10 lakhs annually, I'm talking, your
Yeah.
expenses are close to say 6 or 7 lakhs. What is your carry home? 3 or 4 lakhs. That is
True.
4 lakhs is your profit, which is actually wide. And from that 3 or 4 lakhs you have to actually live also.
Run the whole
For
house.
a
Right.
normal middle class home, a 50,000 rupees is the normal cost of living, all things inclusive. All your
True.
bills, grocery, ration, everything inclusive, your kids' fees, if you have school going children. A
Correct.
50,000 is a nominal amount. Multiply that 50,000 by 12. 6 lakh is the actual you require to run your life. And you are
Right.
showing your profit as 3 or 4 lakhs. How
True.
will you grow? How will you grow if you don't have any money? That only money you can use. So the bottom line is, if you show your actual income, you're showing your actual expenses, but if you show your actual income, you'll have a higher profit, and that profit can be used to buy certain products, financial products, I may say, which
Right.
can grow your income, and then only you can invest and first cross the hurdle of tax saving, then go on to the topmost step of wealth creation.
Super. So I think that's a page that we take from your book, that, instead of running away from tax planning or learning, it's something again where we may have CAs to do this for us. It's important to become, work in unison with them and learn, the nuances of tax planning, where we can actually make sense of what we are showing and earning and doing. Instead of, I think it's more of a headache to have black income. Again, it's another myth that people have in the country. It's culturally something that we have. So In fact, that brings me to our very important and exciting new section of this entire talk is a rapid fire. And I hope you can answer the questions that we have in store for you. And this is going to be shorter versions, but you have to tell us what's on your mind and what instinctively is what you choose first. So, if I was to ask you, large investment in the clinic or smaller investments as you earn and go, what would that, what would the comparison be for you?
It
Both
depends
pre
on the instinctive choice. About pre-COVID, pre-COVID, whatever I was doing, I'll be still continuing those habits. But
right?
yes, always better to go in a smaller way rather than putting your large money. Yes, if you're settled enough, practice. Again, depends upon what stage of practice you are. I call newcomers from 0 to 3, then 3 to 10. I call that the middle road ones, and above 10, I consider the settled ones. So if you have a free flowing income, there is no bar in that. Go for the larger one. And yes, especially if that is going to help you in practice. Obviously, by that I expect that you know your practice very well. You know that that gadget is going to be used in your clinic big time. Yes, go for it. For other ones, for smaller or middle road, I'll always suggest smaller investments in gaps incrementally as you grow.
Both before and after COVID,
Yes,
similar.
similar way. But yes, at the limitations I've already mentioned in the broader part before we discuss those. How to actually put a curve, how to actually analyze where you have been faltering or not.
Correct. And we spoke about the topic of this entire talk is smart financial choices, and I think this is the most important question for all of us: is that what are the smart investment choices? Is it FD? Is it gold? Are they equity stocks, or is it property? So people are always confused how to divide their eggs in different baskets. If you could tell us which one is your top choice.
Uh, FD, a big no, a very big no. Those who don't agree with me, they can actually watch my video on YouTube. I always say for FD in today's time, which is giving you 5.5, 5.6%, you're actually, if you have to break premature, your actual carry home return would be close to 2.5 to 3%. You won't believe me,
Exactly.
I've given the calculation in the YouTube video. So no. Property, if organized sector, yes. If you can afford installments, yes. If it is not cutting into your retirement planning, yes. Unorganized sector, a big no. Gold, yes, partial if you can. Some portion of your investment should contain gold because gold is a good hedge to actually balance out the lower and the higher
Correct.
part of the investment returns part. Stocks, you can say if you have a knowledge, only then delve into it. Otherwise, not. Anything else you want to ask in this section?
No, I think
Gold,
these are
yeah,
four, unless
for
you have
FI.
a fifth one for our audience to invest in.
I
Follow me.
always believe that your some portion should go to your fixed investment, like a PPF or a Sukanya for the kids. Always aim for the why do we say that aim for wealth creation, not tax saving? What actually is that? A little portion was left in the last question. If I may just add over here. So let's suppose you are actually having 1.5 limit in your say ATC,
Yes.
but that is the limit for your tax saving. Let's suppose you put in 1.5 lakh before the 5th of April, uh, the full installment in the PPF. You get the whole year's compounded interest at a good return, whatever you can. But then you want to save at a higher return for a SIP or a, say, equity mutual fund. So have a mutual fund for that purpose. So in a way, let's suppose if you have a 5,000 rupees SIP for say 3 funds, which is actually 15,000 a month. If we annually calculate it is 1,80,000.
Right.
And add that 1.5 ppf, you get 3.3, 3,30,000. You may be getting rebate on 1.5 only, but you are actually creating a wealth for you in that regard. So
Right.
always don't always look at that. I have to put everything in the market. Always look at the government point of view returns as well. Yes, PPF is at its low now, 7.1%, but the way economy is going, even 7.5%, any investment, if it is giving you tax free, it is absolutely gold. In COVID times, especially DC times, these are not after COVID times. AD or
True.
BC, we are still in DC during COVID times, unless the
Right.
vaccine proves itself otherwise fully. So we hope
That's
so.
good.
But otherwise, you are not going to do that. So
Yeah.
you should have some portion of government funds as well. FDs and unorganized property are a big no. Stocks, unless you have a knowledge, don't delve into. Yes, they are a say big say grading ground or a, uh, very lucrative to us sometimes. But you should limit yourself, curb yourself again at some aspect.
Got it. And to ask you, I mean, you have answered this question in the past about loans, but I wanted to ask you whether cash flow versus loans, which means generating your own cash flow or depending on loans.
See, I always believe in generating your own cash flow. Being a son of a banker, I'm always against the loans unless it is all avenues are closed for me and
Correct.
I can't get money out of it. But then people who have stored gold, they can actually use their gold at a lesser rate of interest. Take a gold loan,
Got it.
keeping your gold as collateral. Or if you have spare gold, you can sell it off and say settle your urgent need. That is the reason we have all stored gold. It is not everything is meant for our kids' marriage. So I give my wife's quote and such. She always says one line: "Poot ka poot to kyudhan sanchay, poot sa poot to kyudhan sanchay." This is one again, no gender bias, but that means that if your progeny or child is say is capable enough, so then he or she will earn himself or herself. But if she
Right.
is not or he is not, then he will
Either way,
destroy whatever you have earned as well. So
that's
it is. But then again, this is her methodology or say philosophy. What I actually believe is that being the elder son in my family, my dad did everything for me. So I can't wait for my daughter to get to 25 years of age and then check whether she's capable or not, and then decide whether I should give her the money or not. But then,
right.
being a father, it is my responsibility. So, being Indian parents, not the Western cultural parents, being
Correct.
Indian parents, we have every responsibility towards our kids. We need to give them a better future in the form of education, in the form of giving them whatever job opportunities or providing them in a way we can. So, for that, we have to actually start investing today. And that comes from our own earned income. The whole cycle is connected in a big way together.
Got it. Got it. So all about cash flow and limit the loans, take them where required, and at the lowest possible rate of interest that we can find. And what are your thoughts about profit coming home versus expansion, which means your profit going back in some way to grow your business or to upgrade your clinics or to get better technology so our practice grows?
I always believe 10 to 15% of your annual income should go into updation or upgradation. And this is apart from your gadgets you are going to invest. Again, those are part of your growing mechanism. This is
Right.
for your internal maintenance part, if I may say so.
Correct.
Keep changing your say decor of the clinic. This can be in the very short form like a paint, or maybe say in the form of curtains, blinds, furniture, and not every year of course, but in a rotational manner, one every year. So you need to realize that these are actually a part of your growing up altogether. People find making have a say have I have seen many a times many parents making comment in my friends clinics say 5 साल पहले आते थे, पहले भी यही था, ये भी यही था, अब भी वो वही है. So you need to bring some amount, induce some amount of freshness in your clinic, which can be in any format, so that the patient is able to distinguish, yes, that whatever I am paying him, he's utilizing that money to say
The
upkeep
clinic.
the decorum of the clinic. And of course, again, this depends upon the clinic size as well and your overall income as well. The
Correct.
overall budget, of course, will constantly be close to 10 to 15% of the annual income,
Got it. And annual gross income is what you're talking about.
annual gross income.
Got it. And I would like to ask you one last question that, what is the right choice between risks versus returns? Like, how do we set the correct ratio at each stage for our own life cycle? Because our priorities tend to change as we grow older. It's different when we are younger. We have touched upon this topic before, but if you could give us a quick, comparison for risks versus returns.
Again, as I mentioned in the age part, this depends upon rightly upon age only. So
Right.
if you are younger in age, you can have the high risk appetite. But again, this can be different with even younger individuals.
Depending on
Let's suppose I'm 30 years of age.
Yeah.
and my friend, my colleague is also 30 years of age, but we are having the same income. But I want that, let's suppose I have the risk appetite of 10,000. I'm investing 10,000 in that adventurous territory where there is a, say, hope that I can double this money in 2 to 3 years via equity, via small cap funds or whatever. But there is a equal, say, risk of that 10,000 turning into 1,000 in that 2 years time. So
Correct.
that 10,000 is my risk appetite. Depending on whatever income I had, that will be the percentage. My
Correct.
friend, my client may be having that appetite as 50,000. So that, again, he will have higher returns, but he will also have higher risk potential. So this depends upon your risk appetite, your
Correct.
age factor also, and the responsibilities around you. Some people marry early, some people have their bigger loans going on, they have a home loan, clinic loan, all those going together. So accordingly the situation makes them less, say, uh, less hungry in terms of risk appetite. So they
True.
need to realize that actually that this is one scenario. The age factor and the responsibilities will play a role. But at any moment of time, the risk factor should not cross 10% of your gross monthly income in any case. However adventurous, however young you are in your life.
So 10% is that limit that we can
Maximum,
play
yeah.
with. That's a maximum limit to stay safe. Because I'm
To
sure
stay.
you receive calls if you start saying 50%, your people will start calling you every day that doctor, you told us to take a 50% risk. So I
Yes,
think
yeah.
you're really brave in actually even advising people because it's people are quick to blame, but not so quick to compliment or thank. So,
True.
first of all, thank you for doing this for all of us. And I think even with the rapid fire and the intense discussion on the questions that we've had, we all have gained much deeper understanding on why finances for the next year seem to be a prime focus. And thank you for sharing your time and your wealth of information with us. And
Thank
please do inform everybody where can they reach you and absorb more of this knowledge.
uh, I'm available at my email. All my social media presence goes by my name only, Dr. Bhavdeep, Dr. without any space, dot, or underscore. Dr. Bhavdeep, the name is on the display over here. So Dr.
Right.
Bhavdeep at Gmail, at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you can reach me with Dr. Bhavdeep, even on my Facebook group as well. So I'm having a workshop coming up in the next week that is in collaboration with Dr. Anisa Patel. We'll be putting up a brochure right now. So that is actually how to say begin year 2021. Again, an extension of what we are doing today, an extension of in the terms of record keeping, consent, medical records, financial records, and of course the marketing and the say branding campaign for which Anisa is the specialist for that. So we'll be doing that. So you can catch me over there. Otherwise, my number is 98761930339. You can get me over there. I'll be answering back if you have any queries pertaining to anything. So thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure talking to Dr. Deeksha. So just put up
Thank
the brochure, please.
Definitely, definitely, and thank you so much. And I'm sure we've had a captive audience trying to absorb all these new concepts and sometimes even things that they have heard but not implemented. So I'm sure they look forward to joining you later this month in the workshop that you have planned. And thank you so much for spending this time with us, Doctor. And we look forward to probably seeing you again on this platform really soon.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
thank you,
much.
thank you, thank you.
So, for all of you who have watched with attention, do post your questions. We'll be happy to answer any specific questions. Dr. Bhavdeep has been gracious enough to even share his phone number with you because he truly believes in, forwarding this knowledge and making our community empowered with the right financial knowledge. And from us here at the Pain Free Dentist, thank you for joining us. And we have many more such interesting programs lined up all this month because we want to end this year on a very strong note. I think most of y'all have joined us in this journey that started probably in April. And we have taken you through Practice Reboot. We've been together in this pandemic. And I think a lot of you even have our book, which outlines some of these pearls of wisdom of financial planning in chapter 3. And I do hope that you can join us for these subsequent lives. Next Wednesday, we will be with Dr. Nikhil Bahuguna, and we are going to talk about practice philosophy. So, from finance, we move to how we want to frame our practice philosophy for the year 2021. So, look forward to joining you then, and hope you guys had a great time listening to us and have been an active part of this discussion in posting comments and questions. Thank you so much for your time. See you again.